Welcome back to the Father's Mercy here in Auburn, Kentucky, back on Holy Smokes. Now in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, there is the famous parable of the wheat and the weeds. But unless you have an agricultural background, like the Jews, you do really miss the imagery that our Lord is trying to present and the message that he's trying to convey. Now in this parable, our Lord describes a landlord who has this wheat field. And this man has enemies that come and plant weeds in the field. Now when the wheat and the weed grow up, his servants notice that there are weeds in the field. And they come to the landlord and they ask him, "Do you want us to pull up the weeds?" And his reply is, "No. Wait till harvest, and then we will separate the wheat from the weeds and we'll burn the weeds." Now what's all going on? Well, in the Middle East, they had a very big problem with a certain weed that was called darnel, or by another name, tares, which is used in other places of the gospel. It was also known as fake wheat because it looked by appearance almost identical to wheat, and it also thrived in the same conditions. Now, when the wheat and the weeds grow, so in the spring, before harvest time, they look by appearance almost identical. And so you can't just go through and rip out the weeds without risking also ripping out a lot of the wheat. But at harvest time, when that wheat turns ripe, it turns a golden brown. But the darnel, or the tares, turns black. And so it's very easy to discern which is the wheat and which are the weeds. And it was very important for the Jews to do this because those tares were actually poisonous, especially if you consumed them in a large amount. And this would have been a common agricultural practice for wheat fields that the Jews would have known about, that you have to wait for harvest time before you can separate the wheat from the weeds. And then once you took those weeds, you would just burn them because they were useless. Again, they were poisonous. So our Lord, in this gospel parable, is telling us how he allows the wheat and the weeds, the good and the evil on this earth, to live together and to grow together. But at harvest time, so the end of the world, the last judgment, the good will be separated from the evil, and the evil will be cast out and burnt in the fires of hell, while the good will inherit eternal life. And so this imagery is very important to understand so you know what Christ is trying to communicate. It would have been second nature for the Jews who already understood those agricultural parables. But once again, the wheat and the darnel, they almost look identical before harvest time. But it's once at harvest that they have that clear distinctiveness of golden brown and black. Now, it'd be great for you to look up on the internet pictures and you can see for yourself the wheat and the tares side by side and how hard they are to discern from each other, but how easy they are at harvest time. So again, hopefully this understanding of the imagery of the wheat field and the weeds will give you a better understanding of that gospel parable. Dominus Vobiscum, benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen.